Welcome everyone to the Geneva Digital Market 2020 and to the professional program of the Geneva International Film Festival. We're very pleased to host this afternoon the program Swiss Interactive Sessions. For the second consecutive year, the Geneva Digital Market offers international programmers and creators the opportunity to discover 10 Swiss recent digital projects in the fields of media design, theater, immersive and visual arts. So the 10 creators will present their practice and their latest works today with us live in the form of video capsules and a short Q&A. I want to thank our supports, Migros% Culturel and Pro Helvetia before we start, and also very special thanks to Elisa Gleis, who has been creating these video capsules with us. We're going to start right away with the first project by Jessica Maria Nassif, Mix, Match and Start from Scratch.
My name is Jessica Maria Nassif. I'm French and Lebanese. I was born in Nice in the south of France. And after a few years, my dad we had to move away to Saudi Arabia for 10 years for work. So I lived in Riyadh for 10 years. And then in 2003, there was terrorist attacks against expats. So we moved to Beirut, where I did my BA in art direction, advertising and branding. Then I decided in 2014 to become a freelance designer. I had some clients in Ivory Coast and Abidjan, so I moved there for a few years. I created my company in branding and events. And then I decided to switch completely my path because I wanted to change from the commercial aspect of design and explore a more experimental one. The name of the performance is Mix, Match and Start from Scratch.
Life, can you believe that? I wasn't raised on Tupperware. So I went to the party really thinking I wasn't gonna buy anything because, I didn't need Tupperware.
In my work, I try to play with performances, interactive design, AI, installation. So my work is always an installation and the performance that happened into it. I explore the notions of language and communication in regards to surveillance structures. So I'm really interested in voice and the possibility that voice can betray or save in different contexts, depending on those governmental surveillance structure.
I was mesmerized. Or you're the before, honey. Don't worry, because I was the before. But this is why we're here today. I'm gonna give you lots of tips.
Mix, Match and Start from Scratch is a live performance taking the pretext of hosting a Tupperware party to raise awareness on sound surveillance that's present in our smart objects that we invite into our private space.
How many of you have one of these big food processors at home with 25 million pieces? So inconvenient. Today, I have the 3-blade chopper from Tupperware. Didn't you buy this at the last Tupperware party? Yeah, you did. So at my last Tupperware party, I met Rosario and Arnaud. Let's actually thank our hosts for being here today. Woo!
The Tupperware party back in the 50s, there was the first, most famous ones to commercialize the private space. So I tried to do this kind of comparison. So the whole thing was to trick the artificial intelligence throughout the performance through metaphors, through ways of speaking, through also the text I'm using. Throughout all my research, I was trying to find a loophole in the system, like how can I trick it? I started to contact a voice coach, and she helped me also trying to find ways of tricking it. So we played around a lot with it.
What you say is converted to text based on deep learning, our speaking habits and patterns. Our words but also the characteristics of our voice is being corrected, analyzed, and retrained. The trick to keep a clean Tupperware is to constantly change your habits and not to follow a pattern.
Which was what's interesting also in the performance is that they will understand at the end, even if you do some tricks, you'll understand at some point the trick, and you have to always change the trick. So it's always kind of not settling into the routine, always changing your ways of doings. And so it was also a message of the performance at the end. It's like always mix, match, and then start from scratch.
We take, and every sound we make, every word
but the aim is to raise awareness on the surveillance that we don't necessarily think about because it's invisible, and that's the main aim of the work for now. I think I'm going to try to always be ahead in a way, like not ahead, but try to reflect on what can happen and what will happen, like in a very always. So I think that the last performance I'm creating is also on this next step. It's always thinking of what can happen next, because also what is interesting is that our voices are recorded now, but we don't know what's happening with them in the future.
It's a text based on deep learning from our speaking habits and patterns.
Everything we're doing now can be used against us in the future.
So hello, Jessica Maria. Welcome to this program, Swiss Interactive Sessions, and thank you for presenting us your project. My first question is that you finished the video by saying everything we are doing now can be used against us in the future. And I wanted to know if you could elaborate a bit on this idea and how, if you have something specific in mind at the moment. I'm just going to repeat the question. So thank you for being with us, Jessica Maria. I wanted to ask my first questions regarding the end of your video. When you finish, you say, everything we are doing now can be used against us in the future. And I thought maybe you could elaborate a bit on this idea and let us know if you have something specific in mind in your research concerning this.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't hearing at the beginning. So, yes, voice is so much more than just words and conversations, and everything that is recorded and all the data that is gathered. Now they're all in data centers, but we don't know where the future is headed and what's happening. And so sorry, I'm a bit lost with all the screens. So we don't know what can happen to our data in the future, because now everything is recorded. But then whatever happens in the future, everything can be rebrought and reshaped and used against us today. Voilà, je sais pas si j'ai répondu.
Thank you. So my second question is that you have a multiple background of professional experiences. You worked as a performer, as a designer, and as an artist. And I wanted to know if all of these practices reunite with you in one specific research question, or if you're interested to explore different mediums to address different areas and different questions each time.
I feel that in my work you can see the fact that I'm a designer and artist, and I've done advertising at the beginning of my career, and I think that it brings up in my work. Now I'm focusing on performances, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to explore other mediums, maybe some movies or some installation and less performative installation. I've been working with Mix Match and Start from Scratch, and now I've been doing. I've done another part of it, but I wish to explore other views and expand still with the same topic, but try to explore other mediums. Yes.
And also, you were supposed to perform end of October at the Swiss Performance Award, which was unfortunately cancelled. And I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a bit about that specific performance and what you were going to present on this occasion.
Yes, of course, thanks. So the performance piece I was going to present is called Included but Not Limited to a Piece of the Apple. And so, as I mentioned, it's an extension of Mix, Match, and Start from Scratch, where in Mix, Match, and Start from Scratch, I tackle mostly our conversations and the words we said. But in Including but Not Limited to a Piece of the Apple, I'm more concentrated on the fact that voice is a biometric information. And when we download all those apps, so I'm trying to see the subject also as a different point of view, more legal. So when we download all those apps and we agree to all the terms and conditions that most of us don't read, and even if we read them, the grammar they use is so complex that at the end you don't really know what they do with those information and those biometric informations. And so the performance was supposed to happen this way. People were supposed to come in. We would gather their because of COVID. We have to have all the information, and you have to give back your name and your surname. So we were gonna recruit all those data and play them back during the performance, which is an 18-minute performance where I play with my different voices, and I have screens that also tell you all the legal terms and conditions while entering the performance. So it was kind of a weird experience where I start like as if I'm telling you a story, like once upon a time and still forever, and it goes into lots of different stories and all reminding you that voice is a biometric tool, and it is important to know where your voice is being gathered and where your voice is being listened to.
Thank you so much. Thank you for presenting your project and for participating to the Geneva Digital Market, Jessica Maria.
Thank you, Camille, for having me.
Thank you. I'm now gonna switch to the next project and the next artist, which is Maeva Bosco, who is presenting a VR project called Aftergram.
So my name is Maeva Bosco. I was born in Geneva in Switzerland, and I am now 23 years old, and I did my bachelor degree at HED in Geneva in visual communication, and I directly continue with a master in photography at ECAL in Lausanne. So I am now doing my final and second year there.
Entrez dans le mémorial, veuillez vous enregistrer. Enregistrement en cours.
Aftergram is about the death in the digital age and the relationship with our postmortem identity. So in 2098, will be more dead users of Instagram than living ones. So I wanted to raise the question of where our data goes when we died, because unlike human, our data doesn't die. They always remain stored somewhere. And I wanted to ask also what happened to our accounts on social media when we died. Are them staying for the eternity or not? and also how the family and friends can mourn a deceased person when his digital identity is still online, basically.
Enregistrement en cours.
So to answer to all of those questions, I proposed a new functionality on the social network Instagram that allow an access to an online memorial called Aftergram. So I created the simulation during 7 minutes of VR. The spectator is invited to commemorate and interact with a deceased person. So at any time, it is possible to visit the space and laying flower, lighting candles, leaving messages of homage, reviewing photos, or listening his favorite music. It is quite complex to talk about such a subject because the project can be situated in the cynicism, carrying a future reality, or in a deep sadness. So yes, the project depends on the sensibility of each person. And with this experience, the taboo of the death and the mourning is approached in an imposed way. I use the software called Metashape. So this is a photogrammetry software that I use to model the flowers that you can see during the film. So basically, I took picture of them in a real cemetery. Cinema 4D was useful for me to build the scene and to do some traveling with the 360 camera. Also, I use Ableton to create the soundtracks in my film. This is very important for me. With each new project, I challenge myself to learn a new tool, whatever it is. And I do that basically to broaden my horizon as much as possible. The picture that you can see in all the stones, the Instagram stones, I basically took more than 500 screenshots of accounts. Since this work, I continue in the field of VR, and I did one more films. I explored the question of the life after death, about near-death experience. So I did a simulation of your body traveling through ceilings and dimension during a sleep paralysis. I used to play with the altered state of consciousness that you can have during sleep paralysis, for example, but also during meditation, taking drugs and stuff like that. I'm really working on this question for the moment. The idea of creating still or moving images using an exploratory digital approach is for me an exciting field.
Hello, Maeva. Welcome to the Swiss Interactive session.
Hello.
And thank you for presenting your project,
Yeah.
Aftergram. The first question I have concerns your training. You were trained in visual communication and in photography. And I wanted to know, how did you first get in touch with virtual reality in your practice? And also if you completely self-trained in that medium?
Okay, so I had the opportunity to learn virtual reality and how it works when I was at HED. Okay, and so during the last year and for the first time a new course arrived in the curriculum. So I directly took this opportunity to learn this new medium that was for me incredibly complicated. But yeah, at the beginning it was like small After Effects animation. And I finished my year with Aftergram created with the medium of VR, but also with Cinema 4D that I was learning in the same time. And apart from VR medium, everything was learned by myself. The technique of modeling, like photogrammetry, as I said, Cinema 4D, but also Ableton and so on. And yeah, this is what I like when I start a new project. learn more.
Another question would be to know how you deal with this tension in this work between cynicism and a strong proposal of a future technology. And you're always at the verge of, we don't know if you're offering a new product or if you're offering a critical point of view on this technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Aftergram is a reflection on our current society, but also a futuristic reflection on the act of mourning digitally. So I think that with the advancement of new technology, less and less things can surprise us. So I wanted to propose a future technology that could, in my opinion, really exist in the future, even if it touches on a sensitive subject like death. So I started from the principle that in the future we will all have VR headset at our home, and we'll be able to experiment mourning without having to go to the cemetery. And this is actually already the case in a way when people commemorate their deceased in comment on social media, for example. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And one last question would be if you could tell us where your interest for death comes from, as both your VR project, Aftergram and Dream and Death, talk about this subject specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have always been fascinated by spiritual, mysterious, secret, enigmatic, and like magic events, but death was not particularly something that fascinates me so much. But I once came across an article that was talking about death in the digital age, and at this point this subject started to fascinate me completely. To say that this issue concerns us all make it more real, and that's why I wanted to challenge the public and make them aware of of death in the digital age and all that it brings. And concerning the other VR film that I did, Dream and Death, it's so another immersive work that talks about death, but from a completely different angle, much more spiritual. Because I was always been fascinated by story related to near-death experience and astral travel. So this idea of entering into an ephemeral world, even sometimes while sleeping, not knowing if it's a dream or a nightmare, is a feeling I wanted to explore as well. So I simulate in this VR film an out-of-body experience during sleep paralysis.
Thank you, Maeva. Thank you so much for taking part in the program and sharing your project with us.
You're welcome.
I'm going to switch now to the next project and the next artists, which are AATB with their project Handshake.
We were founded about 3 years ago on the idea that robots are coming out of factories.
Yeah, we are based in Marseille. We met about 10 years ago at ECAL, where we both studied. We both studied graphic design. So we have no background in robotics whatsoever. So everything we do now is kind of self-taught. This robotic installation, it's called Handshake, and it allows you to shake hands corona-friendly. You can go on a website, you can register, then you can take control of one of the two hands. Like each hand is mounted on one of our robots, and so you can kind of, by moving the mouse or the finger on your mobile phone, you can control the mobile robot and then move the hand.
It's an experiment in telepresence. When you are controlling the hand, you are physically moving the hand, and someone else around the earth can be physically interacting with you. And so that's what for us makes it very different and very interesting for most visitors. Last 3 years, there has been really a push to have robots not separated physically from workers in factories. Now we have robots that can be around anybody in any place with public, with students, with customers. And so you can start to think about completely new use cases where you can install these machines, and it creates completely new experiences that were not possible before. Essentially, we try to do everything ourselves. And this is something that we take very close to our heart. Every project we do, we want to understand everything. And the process of learning all the steps to teach ourselves all the techniques, methodologies, to produce our projects, for us, it's almost part of the project to say that as artists and designer, we actually don't want to just commission other people to execute this part, the technical part. We want to reappropriate these technologies for ourselves, and we can only truly understand their potential by knowing how to use them. We used a lot of processing, which is a sort of a framework for artists and designers to program visual experiments on screen. But then it's very easy to interact with physical hardware and sensors. So we use extensively Arduino.
We have quite some projects in the pipeline now. We do some like robot mounted on a car driving through Zurich, and we have some other crazy things happening. So we kind of want to push this aspect of our studio.
So now, because we know very well electronics and programming and mechanical engineering, the design and the art side, we can blend the two in very creative ways. And so that gives us a unique service for potential partners.
Welcome, Andrea and Thibaut and Oscar. Thank you for sharing with us your project Handshake, and welcome to the Swiss Interactive Sessions. The first question I have is concerning the undertitle of your collective name, which is AATB Non-Industrial Robotics. And I wanted to know how this undertitle is already a statement on robotics and their use. And if you could just say a bit more about this statement of non-industrial robotics and in some way non-productive robotics.
Yeah, so I got quite interrupted, sorry, with Oscar, the third assistant. What we meant by non-industrial robotics when we started founding the studio, we noticed that robotics have been used extensively in industrial context. It's nothing new. It's a technology that is pretty mature. But in the last years, there has been a development into robots that are able to be much more safe when they are near people. And so the immediate effect was that these robots can be now in factories, but closer to the worker. They don't have to be fenced. But the second consequence is that it means these robots can be not just with workers in the factory, they can be anywhere. They can be in public space, they can be in shops, they can be in hospital, they can be interacting with people who are not operators of robots and not programmers of robots and not engineers and not scientists. They can be just with everybody. And so we realized that this is a quite new development, and there has been very little inquiry in this new field and areas of application. So we decided that we wanted to state that our area of study was not the creative fields with robotics. It was just excluding the typical use cases and then like freely experimenting with everything else. So that's really the starting point of the research, like and because we had no clue what we were really going to find out when we started.
Another question concerning specifically the project Handshake concerns how the robotics reenacts the human gesture, and how you use robotics to reenact human gesture that are not create a sort of tension that we're not used to see or not used to feel. And maybe you could elaborate a bit. Is that a specific?
Yeah, so that's also something that we are quite interested. Mostly robots, as the one I have just behind me, they work in a very unnatural way, let's say. They work in a very precise manner. They work in a very geometrical manner. They don't really work as a kind of organic movement. Like they go from A to B in a perfect straight line. They can make perfect curves, perfect circles. But they are very bad at looking natural, looking fluid. They will look, almost as it's obvious to say, they look very robotic. And this is due to the way it's been programmed, and the applications they used to be focused on was like industrial application, industrial processes, machining processes, handling objects. But now what we are focusing on is to completely program them in the different direction. And so we are more programming them in a fluid and intuitive way, and that means that we grab, for example, for Handshake, we really grab the movement of the mouse of people. So if you move your finger, this is the exact movement that will be translated on the robot and fed as an input to the motors. And so it's not anymore at all about go from A to B in a straight line. It's actually follow the movement of a person that is interacting on screen or with a mouse. And that gives a completely different feeling and aesthetic to the movement of the robot, because it's not anymore following this very mechanical program. It's really just a more following a natural gesture, and this is something we are really experimenting with, because that gives us also completely different experience of the machine.
And my last question would be concerning one of your ongoing future projects in which you're using robots to film. And I think here the robot takes a very specific take on the human working and the robot working in some way. And maybe you could elaborate a bit on this specific position.
Yeah. So this is something we have called superposition. It's a bit a side branch of our studio. We realized after 3 years of really experimenting heavily with robotics by building interactive installations, we gained a very advanced knowledge of robotic systems. And in cinema, it's been something quite used since 20 years to use robots for controlling cameras. But the robots used to be the very big one, like the big dangerous ones. So it was limited in what you could do, because they are dangerous. They weigh a ton. They are very heavy to move around. You can't really do flexible things. On the other hand, the robots we use, they are 30 kilo. You can bring them anywhere you want. You can carry them on your shoulder, and it opens up completely new applications for this. So we decided to go in this direction. So it's called camera motion control. It's an established business model, let's say. But the difference is that the tool we bring and the knowledge we have allow us to do very interesting new motion control applications. Like, for example, we just shot a clip in Zurich last weekend where we had a robot in a car while the car was driving around the city. And so the camera was filming passengers inside and outside. The robot was also on the roof of the car, and all of this while the car was physically driving through the city. It's this kind of new things that were just impossible to do before because the technology was not there, and it's opening up completely new areas of let's say creative development for the film industry, because you can shoot things that were just not possible to do before. And so that's the most recent venture. You can see it on our website also, and that's growing quite fast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking part in the program and sharing your project with us.
Sure, thank you.
I'm now going to switch to our next project from Sitendo, which is called Fucked Up Sushi Train.
Action! The company is born because of our common interest for technology and video games, and also for social question and how to question all those new mediums and new technologies. So that's why the Tendo company places its creation at the crossroad between performing arts and interaction design. So we are two comedians and one interaction designer. So our projects can be performance, can be participative theater play,
installations,
or interactive installations. And we imagine each of our projects through the prism of user experience.
On est en train de créer un projet, une pièce de théâtre interactive dans laquelle le public a le choix.
Vous avez déjà hésité entre des pâtes et de la pizza. Et vous avez sûrement déjà repensé aux pâtes en mangeant votre pizza.
Chaque fois qu'on fait des choix, on doit renoncer à quelque chose. Dans une première étape du projet, on a demandé au public de choisir ce à quoi nous, on allait devoir renoncer pour écrire cette pièce.
Ils ont décidé de nous faire renoncer à notre chez nous pendant un mois. Donc pendant le mois de février, on va devoir trouver des endroits où loger.
Plus il y aura de gens pour nous accueillir, plus il y aura d'histoires à raconter et plus il y aura d'options pour le spectacle. Donc si vous avez un bout de canapé, une botte de foin ou même un lit et que vous seriez d'accord d'accueillir l'un d'entre nous, écrivez-nous et puis on en discute.
On pourra pas vous proposer grand chose en échange, mais on pourra vous faire la cuisine, votre vaisselle ou tondre votre gazon.
On se voit peut-être bientôt chez vous. Suivez la page pour la suite des aventures et partagez la vidéo si vous voulez nous aider.
So we'll live at strangers' place for 1 month.
Influenced by the choice of the public. We live in different spaces with choosing of people, putting a sofa there, a bed there, and we live in those spaces. And in fact, this is exactly the same experience we want to recreate on the stage. Yeah. Public choosing for us all the stages, all we move in, or we live in, and we are living in life in the stage.
And we will play in the space the audience decided to create. Fucked Up Sushi Train can be summed up in one question, which is how to make a play a common experience in which each spectator lives an individual, strong and singular involvement.
We consider ourselves as the master of the rules and the spectator of the behavior emerging from them. In fact, Tendo is creating art that is based on how the audience make the rules theirs.
We had to find a way to make the people interact, but not make too much distance with what happens on stage. We decided to use the smartphone during all the play. The public access this webpage live and decide by
multiple choice question. The device is in fact having this link direct with the spectators. We can send them information, and as an inside, we can talk to public and the smartphone as in is by his intervention as a character itself. In fact, so the smartphone is a technical tool to vote, but is also an actor of the piece, and it's also an extension of the stage. It's fully
theatrical.
Theatrical, yeah.
And by giving the audience a choice, Fucked Up Sushi Train offers the public a way to touch the feeling of the artistic creation. And we all three have the will to create not finished, not frozen, not fixed, not static works of art, but to make living works and always in movement, to move the audience, the spectators from the place they are used to. We also seek to make them do, to make them act, to make them stage. And for this, we create projects that involves the public and exploit also the places where the public is. Life is a bit like a sushi train where you can pick up one sushi, but in a normal sushi train, they come around and they pass a second time before you. And life is a fucked up sushi train where they pass just one time, and if you don't take it, well, it's gone forever. So that's why fucked up sushi train.
Exactly.
So welcome to the Swiss Interactive session, and thank you for presenting your project. The first question I have is, when was Citendo founded, and how do you manage your different backgrounds and competences among the collective?
So we created Tendo just a year ago. What can we say? We've been out of school, the three of us, for a year. So during a year, we kind of created a way to work because our specificities are quite really different, and we learned to work with each other every day. But actually it's quite simple. It's for now we've been doing, the three of us, we've been doing all the stuff of conceptualizing our work. We've been also kind of writers of it, and except for all that is technical that only Paul is able to do, we kind of really work for the three of us. And
and all this began because when we talked about what we wanted to do, we simply talk about common interest, and in fact they were pretty much the same, and all of our three practices turn around goes around the technical possibilities and the new way of thinking art that the technology allows. And so that's how it started.
And we don't want things to exclude each other. We want to do something that is to us, creating Tendo was because also we thought that our practices were like complementary. They were good to go together, and for now it's we're quite right about this.
For now.
I think.
At some point in the presentation, you say rules and that the spectator is behaving emerging from them. I wanted to know which are the limits that you hold on to the rules, and when do you let them go?
In fact, the first set of rules we define when we start a project is using the element already present in a space we create the piece. In fact, that's the starting point, that's the piece, and that's the number of people probably coming to the performances to use the interactive piece or to the theater piece. And then we define a device that could help us to push further what we already know from the theater, from the performances. And that's where we push further the rules, in fact, using interaction with a smartphone, like in Fucked Up Sushi Train, or in the last performances we do at MUDAC, Ceci n'est pas une visite, this is not a visit, or where it was like the people were looking into the museum to interact with us by SMS, by text message, and that was in fact at the beginning of the performances, people thought that the interaction was only on the smartphone, and when they send a text message for example, tell me a story, and one character was coming from the behind the scene and was coming into the museum, and it created a real
performances, in fact. And when the digital space or fiction space meet the physical space, the real space, and that's where the theater and the technology is interesting. It was the mixed up where they meet.
Yeah, and that's why we love to create in situ in the places where we are going to perform, because we can see what the place tells us and what we can do about this, and this allows us to play with the place and with the expectation of the audience, which is in the space, and we can maybe twist the expectation or go. In fact, in the MUDAC, which is a museum, people were used to watch something, and we made them do something, and this is very disturbing for some of them, or amusing.
Yeah, and rule is not a rule can be a word that kind of aggressive or maybe hard, but for us, a rule is something that is quite good. We don't want to be intrusive for the public. It's quite a thing that allow us to just make some boundaries and to just see what happens in these boundaries, and not do like hard rules.
Just, in fact, rules is the starting point of our project, and the result, in fact, is all the public play with the rules and maybe create new rules. So in fact, there is not really
or not following the rules.
or not following the rules. In fact, there is not really boundaries for those rules. It's all the public use them.
Yeah.
The very last question. Do you already know when and where the piece will be premiered?
Hello. Yes, the piece will be premiered if everything goes good. It will be in April 21 at Théâtre du Loup in Geneva. We're quite wishing about this, and we're also looking for other places, maybe to not for the premiere but afterwards. And if I don't know, maybe we're going unlucky and not able to play, maybe we'll need to find some other places. We don't know for now, but if everything goes good, we play at Théâtre du Loup in April 21.
The Citendo, and thank you for sharing your project with us. Sure. We're now gonna pass to the last artist and project of the session, Sébastien Gros, with his project Loveway.
I have born in Geneva and grew up in Geneva. Grew up in a working class neighborhood with people from different country, culture, and this was very interesting and a chance to grow up in this environment. I think it's the particularity of Geneva. And then I start a commercial school, and I have worked in an economic firm. And then I was quite bored about this work, and I was thinking about to change. And I chose to study in an art school. I did the bachelor at ECAL in graphic design. And then after this bachelor, I have worked in Berlin during as a graphic designer. And I choose to go to Africa, Abidjan, to make this project, Loveway.
Soit on prend le risque de partir en Europe par l'eau, ou soit on est obligé de bouter. Parce qu'il n'y a pas d'avenir en Afrique, parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous sommes oppressés par les Occidentaux.
Loveway is a documentary interaction project that unify communication, interaction, sharing. For communicate, the broutage term commonly used in Abidjan to describe scam on the net.
J'ai plus envie de lui demander quelque chose, mais parce que entre lui et moi, c'est devenu quelque chose de fort, quoi. Donc ça fait que je veux tout lui dire, quoi. Je veux tout lui dire, mais je ne sais pas si il va me faire quelque chose.
The broutage, it's a social phenomenon. I mean, everybody in Abidjan know that's the way to earning money. And the hypothesis of this way is to a process of reparation of the debts, colonial debts, and the asymmetric linkage to colonization also. So I have been there 2 months and a half, and it was very interesting. The people understood my intention, and for me it was interesting to discuss and just to know now what we will do to communicate this in Europe. And I choose to make a cyberspace to interact a lot of people. There is just one post, one screen is connected to internet just for the relationship between this Dan and Abidjan.
Tu oublies complètement ce pourquoi tu as commencé, que tu commences à te mettre dans le champ. Comprenez, sinon je suis convaincu que l'une des questions fondamentales du broutage pour le jeune africain, c'est la misère, le besoin, la nécessité, la pauvreté. Donc en même temps qu'on les autres, les jeunes ont arrêté parce que c'est pas bon, ça fait du tort aux gens, en même temps qu'on doit interpeller les autorités pour que vraiment ils pensent aux jeunes africains. On souffre en Afrique, on souffre trop. Les jeunes sont laissés pour compte.
I give my camera and also my phone to them, and it was not only me that I was filming. Some part is me, some part is them. For me, it's important when we make a project, in a social project, that they have to recognize on it, and then they have to interact with people here.
Celui de l'immigration aujourd'hui, où les gens traversent l'eau et meurent, ils savent le danger qui les inquiète. Mais est-ce qu'ils ont le choix? L'Afrique, notre continent, notre pays ne nous offre rien de bon. C'est mieux d'aller en Occident pour se chercher. Donc ceux qui meurent dans l'eau sont semblables aux brouteurs.
Today, I'm doing a Master of Art with orientation in mediation and teaching at HUAD. And I aspire during these 2 years of master to develop a practice related to systematic study of graphic design to understand the functionalist and the rationalist stakes of this method during the elaboration of collaborative projects.
Hello, Sébastien. Hello, Sébastien.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being with us and for presenting your project Loveway. The first question I would have would be to know when you first become interested in the phenomenon of broutage, and I wanted to know if you discovered it when you were in Abidjan or if you already knew about this phenomenon before going there.
So the first time that I knew about this phenomena, it was just speaking with some friends, because in 2015 when the how can I say, the thematic for going to the art school at ECALT was hacking. and then I was reflect about what is hacking, and then I know this phenomena with a friends, and yeah.
Thank you. I also wanted to know how your work is perceived in Switzerland and in Ivory Coast, and if you had the opportunity to share the work in Ivory Coast as well.
I hope to, after COVID, I will present the work there. For me, it's important because they did the project, and to be also confronted by the people who was living this inequality.
And at the end of the video, you mentioned the importance and the challenge of representation and being represented. And I wanted to know how you see your own role in the process, and if you see yourself as an artist or more as a mediator.
So I try to give to be not on the project. I mean, I give my camera, I give my phone for the interview, but at the end it was me. I did the montage video, and for me the position that I have on this work, it's like an intermediary of between Africa and Occident.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for sharing the project with us. And we'll be back at 3:30 to present the other artists that are part of the Swiss Interactive Sessions this year.
Welcome to the Geneva Digital Market 2020, the professional program of the Geneva International Film Festival. This is the second part of the Swiss Interactive Sessions. This program aims to give international programmers and curators the opportunity to discover a selection of recent Swiss digital projects in the fields of media design, theater, immersive, and visual arts. We already discovered 5 artists, and now we'll meet the 5 last artists through video capsules and a live Q&A. I would like to thank again Migros, Pourcent Culturel and Pro Helvetia for their support. And last but not least, give a special thanks to Elisa Glaze for creating those wonderful videos. So let's start with Luca Casper and Low Sonic Laboratory.
The best word I can find today is that I need some kind of transcendence in what I make. I realized that I needed to spend my time doing something that was beyond understanding, something that couldn't be right or wrong, something, a field that could be studied forever without finding any truth. I've been studying media and interaction design in ECAL in Lausanne, and there I learned to build my own electronic music instruments. And then I studied fine arts in Geneva, in La Haye, where I could sort of take the skills to build my own musical instruments to a much larger scale. That is to say, now I build installations, large-scale systems where I can make my creations resonate. La Capite is actually the name of the collective from Lausanne that asked a friend of mine and myself to present an installation. So we were asked to sort of build a structure, a sonic structure inside the Capit, which is a small building that is usually, it's actually a shelter in the vineyards, a shelter for tools in the vineyards. And the idea of this collective was to move it around and propose every time a different artist. So we decided to work with this specific frontier boundary between instruments and speakers. And so we gathered like abandoned speakers, some of them that were not working properly, the old hi-fi speakers that sound really crunchy, and we also made stuff like show it, like this, which is basically a tambourine with a little exciter on it. It's called an exciter because it makes surface moves. This actually turns the whole tambourine into a speaker, and it sounds very, I mean, you can really hear the frequencies, the resonant frequencies of the tambourine when you play a sound through it. And then I kind of transformed this installation into an open space laboratory. It's kind of the same idea that I had this summer at the end of my master's studies, but the idea was to taking it from an inside installation that you would visit one by one inside this little tent to something much more open to accidents that could occur in the outside world. I usually think in terms of what is a tool, what is an instrument, what is my artistic practice, and what is music and everything. So I try to merge all of this together, and I think I realized that I could build instruments that were also speakers, that were also tools to work in the studio. So I started to create hybrid forms of instruments. I always kept a skeptic look at the digitalization of our life. I mean, it's the quantified lives we have today. We're always in contradiction with this transcendental mystery that I was looking for. This physical interaction was the closest I could get from my relation and my view to nature and music.
Luca, you hear me? Yes. Thank you for being with us at the Swiss Interactive Sessions. We're really happy to have presented you. So actually, so you moved from inside installation to an outside open space laboratory, and we wanted to know how did that actually impacted your creation?
Well, it changed kind of everything, because the fact of being outside is also the opportunity to listen to the outside world. I mean, the natural environments. So it was, in my case, recording the birds and feeding them into my musical system, or being aware of the sound of the lake that was nearby. Or it was also maybe looking for a different lighting on my instruments, and how this sunlight could affect the music that I was making. So typically in that case I was using a light sensor to control the pitch of a synthesizer, and this was only possible outside with the sunlight coming at my instruments. So there is a lot of inspirational and technical aspects that go with the fact of going outside, because it's a kind of a complicated task to just move all the electronic gear and everything outside and install it quite quickly. But it brings also a lot of new perspective to the music, and I thought it was funny to go back to a place where I'm usually inspired. I mean, I like to go in nature and outside to get some inspiration to make my music, and I thought it was a feedback, sort of a twist to get back there and put the studio outside.
Mm-hmm. And you actually speak about the word, or you mention actually the word transcendency in this presentation, and we wanted to know, does it come from the process when you're actually modifying the instruments, or is it the transcendency comes from listening the experience itself?
That's a good question. I think there's a lot of transcendence when you get to listen to your own music while you make it. So it's not a process of writing the music and then see the results, but it's more changing the parameters and kind of, in my case, modify my own instruments while I'm making music. So it's kind of a loop that I get hypnotized by most of the time. So it's also when I listen to other people's music. I mean, I think in our interview I was talking about transcendency in the large sense that all kind of music that is kind of repeating itself or getting you in a deep state is it's an experience that I really care about, and I think this is the kind of feeling that made me choose art studies and basically the practice of music.
Thank you. And what are you working on right now? A new project?
Right now I'm working actually on 2 different projects, but they are not related to the outside world, because we live in a specific time where it's not, well, in my case it's not possible to play live anymore or to organize a cultural event that is listened to in the public space. So I'm actually working on music that will be released on 2 different labels. The first project is an album that I was asked to compose with my girlfriend by a French label called Décalé Records, and they asked us to basically compose a long play album and give it back to them. So it's experimental music. It will be experimental music. I don't know yet what will be the outcome of this work, but it will certainly be related to the past and to ancient times that maybe didn't exist, or some sort of time distortion story. I don't know yet. But the other project I'm working on is a short album, an EP that I will release in the next month on Brainwaves, which is a Geneva-based collective that I'm part of. So it's more like digitally releasing my work for now, more than sonic installations.
Well, thank you for joining us, Luca. I wish you all the best, and let's move now with Marc Lee and his project 10,000 Moving Cities, Same but Different.
My name name is Mark Lee. I'm born in Switzerland and I studied fine art, University of Basel, and I studied new media art at the ZHDK at the University at the Arts in Zurich, and there I studied media art. And I graduated about almost 20 years ago. And since 20 years ago, I do new media art projects, interactive projects. And maybe the main specialty or the main focus I have, the project I do are constantly changing, always computer generated. In common, all the projects, they have kind of an algorithm which make them constantly changing. The title is 10,000 Moving Cities. The subtitle is same but different. Has 4 different versions addressing the same subject. One is a kind of an exhibition version with real cubes. One is a augmented reality work. One is a VR work, and one is a mobile app. You see cities, skylines, and the skyline is for every city the same, but the mappings on the buildings, they are local. So the user can choose any place, and then it searches images, videos, and text from social media, and is projecting them on the skyline. And all 4 versions, they have different interactions. For example, the AR version, you can move around. And this is how our places constantly change and more becoming similar. When you see skylines from metropolitan cities, they look very similar. Or for example, another example is airport lounges. You are in an airport lounge and you hardly can know where you are because they look very much the same. I guess it's the globalization, because the technology process helped a lot, kind of information. And of course, we can travel easily. I mean, not now, but usually we can travel very easy to other countries, other cultures, and they are more and more get influenced by each other.
もしかしてこの距離感を感じているのは俺だけなの？
So one influence was the book of Marc Aurèle's Nolieu, and also I read a story from Italo Calvino. His story is Invisible Cities, and this gives me a very big effect. If you look deep into the things, you see more and more that things are homogeneous. It's not only the architecture, it's also the tools we use, the clothes we wear, the food we eat. So when we look a few hundred years back, things were much more diverse. I made 2 projects during the time of the pandemic. One is called a Corona TV bot, kind of made like a TV news station who shows news, but just about COVID. And it searches on Flickr, YouTube, and Instagram, and makes a kind of a TV show. Every second you have new tweets and you have new posts. So it's kind of a real-time TV show.
I think widespread testing and contact tracing is going to be absolutely essential to finding out exactly where we are.
Good evening. We're winning, but we haven't won yet. That's the message from the Health Minister today.
Can animals get coronavirus? The short answer is yes, but there is no evidence showing that domestic animals like cats and dogs, livestock like pigs and cows, and most wild animals like tigers can transmit the virus that causes COVID-19 to humans.
Hi, Mark. We're very happy to have you with us at the Swiss Interactive Sessions. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
I hear you now.
Perfect. So I have a few questions for you. You actually mentioned that by traveling easily, diversity gets lost. Is this statement actually a personal, does it come from a personal experience, or is it something you observe through media?
No, I mean, I experienced it personally, but it's obvious everyone could experience it, that life gets more and more kind of homogeneous in a way that things are becoming more and more the same. For example, when we see shopping malls or airport lounges or skyscrapers, they look very similar. It doesn't matter in which area you are. And yeah, at the same time, there is a huge extinction of plants and animal species. So in a broader perspective, our life gets more and more homogeneous. That's what I want to point out with these 4 versions of 10,000 Moving Cities.
Yes, and I was actually wondering, as a media artist through the years, do you have the feeling that, how do you see the overload actually of this information and contents, and how does this actually influence your aesthetics and your mediums?
Yeah, actually, I very much work with this overload in terms of using social media. Also in this project, 10,000 Moving Cities, in all 4 versions, the content you see are produced by social media. So there are different social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Freesound are used to generate content, local content from a place you could search on a map. And then it will be displayed on these skylines. And yeah, I mean, the information overload is probably it was always here as human being. I mean, we always could communicate with so many people, and now it's more and more we use digital devices, but we can decide how much information we want to hear or see, but we don't have to.
And you mentioned that actually in your piece, the computer generates images and that there is an algorithm involved in this process. And I was actually wondering what happens if the algorithm chooses an image that you cannot agree with? Do you get involved or you just leave it?
Yeah, I just leave it, because when you start the application, you see so many images and videos and tweets and posts from Instagram, often in parallel and sometimes one by one. So it's kind of very random. The only parameter is set the geolocation where the post is sent from, and actually what kind of content will be shown. I cannot influence that. It's just times matter. So as more new as the content is, as more early it's shown.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mark. I wish you a very nice day, afternoon.
Thank you.
And see you soon. Now I'm really happy to introduce you to Melody Mousset with her VR latest work, which is called Jellyfish. I think she's joining us from Zurich, but let's first meet her through the video.
on va seal the deal. I worked with mixed reality, mixed reality for about since 2013. So I started, it was a little bit as an accident. I was at the hospital trying to take my organs out. I discovered the VR lab where they were treating, they were looking at cognitive behavior induced by virtual reality. So I got very interested in that, and I started to develop my first work there at the hospital as a kind of experiment. And I fell in love with the technology and the possibilities of the medium. Jellyfish is the latest work I've made in VR in collaboration with my friend Eduardo Fuyu, which I have a company with now. We are Patch XR, and we are specializing in making music and art in virtual reality and how visual and sound can interconnect to create, something new. You put the glasses on and you're in the middle of the ocean, like deep down. It's quite dark, and then you have this creature that is like invertebrate floating around you, kind of in a very Fantasia-like setting. And a little bit scary as well, but also you have this feeling of like calmness. And then if you start looking at this creature, they can feel your gaze and they would come closer to you, like to communicate with you. So they'll just wait for you to say something. And as you're saying something, they're gonna take your voice and singing it back at you. All these jellyfishes are different synthesizer, modifying your voice in real time and singing it back at you. If you answer back at them in a similar harmony, more jellyfish comes to the thing, like it's more like some rhythmics that comes and like support you, so you feel like you're singing like a star. So all this very complex system with a very simple interface, which is basically just gaze and voice. So people are very like self-conscious about their voice and their if they can sing or not. But in this setting where you kind of completely forget what's outside, it really takes the immersion, the body, and this playfulness, and you completely forget time. And like now we're showing it in this exhibition at Helmhouse, and it's so funny. Like you have like people from all age just singing like in the And like, I've been working on the body and sense of embodiment and externalization of yourself. So the fact that actually your voice become an object. Interactive sound and sound in real time gives really the feeling that you're there and you're having an actual experience. So as I discovered this is something that became almost a priority in the work. I had once an experience under some kind of substance. I did see my voice as a creature. And for sure, the jellyfish is the closest experience in the world from that experience I had back then. Just with the headset though.
Hi, Melody. I just heard you play an instrument. That was nice. Thank you for thank you for joining us to the Swiss Interactive Sessions. We're very happy to be able to present your work this way. I have a few questions for you. So actually, in your previous work, you with Hana Hana and with this one, you really made the person live what you lived, live your personal experience. And I was actually thinking and wondering, why are you so interested actually in making people live new realities?
I don't really know what to answer to that. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say to that. Well, let me think for a second. I mean, I just personally really like to explore new things, new states, new. Also, I'm hearing myself 2 times as I'm speaking. It's really weird. But yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really know how to answer this question, Marie.
Don't worry. No worries. Yes. Actually, why did you choose the jellyfish as a representation of your experiment?
Okay, so the jellyfish. So, I mean, the jellyfish was I mean, the jellyfish is a collaboration with my partner Eduardo, and he was already prototyping some kind of some creature that would react to the voice, and we decided for the jellyfish because also there is a latency that happens when using the microphone and processing the voice. So what's happening is recording the voice and is treating your own voice and playing it back at you, and this takes a little bit of time. So with the jellyfish, because it's an invertebrate creature and also it's in the ocean, and there is this kind of distance and fluidity between the jellyfish and the person who is actually singing to the jellyfish. There is you can accept this yes, this delay. Also, I was always intrigued. I mean, since Deleuze has this becoming a jellyfish, so kind of becoming this being which is somehow the inside and the outside of the jellyfish is just water flowing in and out. It also doesn't have this this rigidity, just constantly moving. Yeah. So this plasticity, I guess I was quite inspired.
And what's your next project? Where are you bringing us next?
So the next project is called Patch XR, and it's actually, so I push this this music aspect and this real-time and virtual and physical element that you have in my work. And now, still with my partner, I mean, we developed this, we opened this company, it's called Patch XR, and it is actually software to create instruments in virtual reality and to connect over the network and play music and make art together in VR in real time. So we're working on this software, which is interesting as an artist, that this is actually very technical, but the idea there is to bring this tool to other artists to be able to engage in this medium and play with it without a lot of money nor any coding skills or anything like that. So yeah, I'm working on that, and actually we got a grant from Oculus, so this is gonna be released on the store next year as a tool for artists to start building their own stuff in VR.
Melody, I'm super happy because we did this interview exactly on the day where you had to meet them. So I'm super happy you got the grant. I wish you all the best with that project and hope to see you very soon. And I will now introduce you to Leonardo Angelucci, presenting his work, Wi-Fi Looking for Networks. And Leonardo is based in Zurich. He will join us after the video. Thank you.
Well, my name is Leonardo Angelucci. I'm 31 and I'm a graphic designer and coder. Before I'm studying and taking an interest in the world of interaction design, I study programming. I felt that there was a lack of aesthetics around the discipline. So at the end of my program studies, I decided to change in design university. After my studies in visual communication, I started working as a freelancer in 2013. And Sabrina Chorea is now part of the studio. And we deal with graphic design, interaction design, and teaching. An important role in our work is the notion of graphic design roots able to be supported by technology. And I love trying to maintain good design principle by adapting them to the many device and user interaction. The Wi-Fi Looking for Network project has started from an idea that was born during the lockdown. As an interaction designer, I could be able to analyze in a critical way the situation and show up some shades about COVID. It was clear for me to notice that companies such as Zoom, Teams, Skype, Facebook have taken a big impact on our daily life in this period. My idea is to make this process visible through the Wi-Fi networks names. So they are invisible, but they exist with their name and frequency. Now it's a work in progress, so I'm trying to do some research about it. I asked to a lot of people to send me a screenshot about their cell phone with the list of Wi-Fi. Actually, I also create a microcontroller with ASP32. It's a microcontroller. It's able to recognize and catch all the Wi-Fi around. So we will collect a lot of data. Now it's not geolocated, but at the end you can say, okay, I want to see which kind of Wi-Fi you can find in Langstrasse, for example. You can find a lot of houses there with names and message. And so this is kind of now animation for show you how many data we have. And sometimes these names are super good and nice in a way because they carry message. Yeah, there are a lot of crazy names, but yeah, I don't know why, but Martin Luther King is everywhere. And then another part now is a demo. It's more about the geolocalization and home. And so it's really important that you can see houses in this map. And we need a lot of data to try to understand the message and the pattern. So maybe people will try to create some other message, and it's possible that you know a lot of information about your neighborhood, but you never see them. So it's kind of nice stuff. So yes, it's more about home and Wi-Fi at home. You are fucking noisy because I live in Zurich in front of a club, and people are crazy there. So it's just a message for them. Also, this project is start during the pandemic period. It's a collaboration with Photo Museum and the Photographers Gallery together. All of them are people that moving around. So I record everything, and now you can see the movements like a birds. It's super nice. You have a lot of graphic designer, and you have also a coder, but it's hard to find both of them together. So as a graphic designer and coder, it's more easy for me to try to go deep, good in a way, because I can mix it together. I prefer to be an interaction designer because I think we have more possibility now to create something good with technology. So for me, it's super important to take care about it and try to investigate it.
Hi, Leo. I'm so sorry for my Italian. You really need to teach me how to say your noun correctly. Angelucci. We're super happy to have you here today with us for the Swiss Interactive Sessions. I will ask you a few questions now. So you said in the video that the aesthetic issue is a very important thing, and actually that it made you change the course of your study from programming to interaction design, and that this because of the lack of aesthetics actually coming from the programming discipline. And we were actually wondering where this concern comes from.
Okay. Jean-Marie, first of all, thank you everybody for having me. So yes, good question. Yeah, before my university study, I studied programming, and yeah, I was very happy about this discipline, but everything around me seems very ugly in a way. I remember to have understood the power and beauty of code, but sometimes something was missing. And yeah, at the time my sister was studying graphic design, and so it seems natural to me to try to put these two things together. And yeah, I decided to start university in interaction and graphic design. That's it.
So it's a family affair, basically. And so, getting back to your project, you said, like, how do you actually interpret the messages carried by those network names? Do you see like a pattern depending on the geographic location of the networks? And how do you really analyze this? Is there like a methodology, or is it just, I don't know, explain us a bit more about this.
Yeah. So yes, the message can be very personal or related to political and cultural content. So to be able to analyze this message, you must first understand where the network is located or come from. So the issue of geolocation is very, very important. And then, yeah, sometimes there are messages from the past, sometimes message from the present. It depends a lot when people, both maybe the router or how many times the name of network is changed. About methodology, I haven't found a real methodology yet. I'm currently working a lot to try to understand how it's possible to analyze a large amount of data with machine learning in order to help me. But at the moment, I don't have enough data to do that. So it's why I'm currently working on an app to collect data, and yeah, I'm also figuring out how to spread this app around the world. So yeah, I understand your question.
Yes, you did. And what are you working on next?
Yeah, about this project, you mean?
Yeah, or other projects you're working on. Is there one specific you'd like to appoint?
Yeah, I'm really love this project. So now I'm working a lot of this project and machine learning algorithms in order to help me to figure it out how can I maybe finish this project, maybe in some month. And I'm also working a lot of I work a lot with commissioned projects, also in the field of interaction design. I mostly work on the web now, and maybe technology as a microcontroller or webcam. And yeah, now for example, I'm working on another project with Salvatore Vitale. He's a friend of mine and artist. We are building a nice system of surveillance, so with a lot of camera and website camera, electronic device, and yeah, a lot of stuff. And yeah.
Busy times. That's good actually to hear. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining, Leo, and I hope to see you very soon. And we will now get to the next artists. And the next artists are Ramona Sprenger and Nadine Cosina with their project Do You Love Me? What My Computer Sees. Let's see their video.
My name is Ramona Sprenger. I'm an interaction designer from Zurich, and I did study interaction design with Nadine. That's where we met. Next to my artistic practices, I work at the digitalization think tank Decentrum, and I'm on the board of Rote Fabrik.
So my name is Nadine Cosina, as well an interaction artist from Zurich. As Ramona said, we met together 2015 in our bachelor studies at the Zürcher Hochschule der Künste. Kind of really fast recognized that we have the same interests, so we started right after the bachelor to do projects together. And now I'm working currently as a freelancer and also doing my master's studies in interaction design as well at the Zurich University of Arts.
All of our artistic practices is somehow interactive. We are very focused on the process or on the concept of what we do.
Yeah, we also very often go from daily phenomena that we see kind of in our everyday lives, usually related to human and technology. And sometimes the direction goes more into societal and political structures, kind of making through artistic explorations like our own individual research, kind of. It's kind of a whole project, but it's also two projects, two individual ones. Do You Love Me is the one from Ramona, and What My Computer Sees is mine.
The base component that we share is that our computer takes pictures of us whenever we wake it up from standby mode. Then with the built-in camera, it takes a picture of us using it. So we were talking about how we do have the tendency to take pictures of us, but in a regularity.
We both saw the potential of what this project could be, and that if our computer captures us and we can automate this process, yeah, we have some kind of surveillance and a completely new relationship to this project, and that it changes the meaning.
We found a program that already did what we were looking for. It's called Security Camera, and I think that's also somehow interesting that we use a program that was built to photograph intruders who use your computer, so you can like see who who try to access your computer. So we use that.
So yeah, it's more documentation because it's really just taking pictures of us kind of every time we activate our computer. I think we're going a bit differently as well on the documentation of the project. For example, to me, it's more also visual, where I can see what my computer really sees, where I can interpret this, like how I am as a user using the computer, and my computer is taking pictures of me, and we have this very intimate relationship.
For me, it's also, I have this whole, I don't know, thousands of pictures, and also I write texts about it. So whenever I think about a project, I write it down. It's like a kind of a diary, if you want to say so. We are looking for a way to present or to work on this together with the similar basis. And we did start to experiment already with me feeding back these pictures to Google and then seeing what the almighty algorithm thinks about these pictures. And then if I have, for example, a picture of me drinking and I upload it, then it shows me similar pictures and the Wikipedia entry and so on. And then the third focus is, how do I feel about all of this? And Nadine?
I feed it a neural network, like an algorithm to kind of detect objects within the pictures. So I think in this next phase, we're really interested in letting third digital parties to interpret these pictures.
I already got angry at my computer or this project because I don't want to be seen in a vulnerable situation or when I'm stressed or when I'm just laying in my bed. And then showing this to the public.
Yeah, I think there we both have this feeling of how this project contradicts itself or how we feel to it, because we have this weird feeling where we want to, but it's very contradicting. And I think it's very interesting.
I have 3,500 pictures.
Yes. I have 5,518 right now.
Hi Ramona, hi Nadine. Thank you for joining us today for the Swiss Interactive Sessions. We're super happy to have you both here. You're exactly dressed the same way than on the video. What's so funny? Anyway. So I have a few questions for you. So by choosing this auto surveillance basically on your computer, in what situation would you allow yourself to turn it off? Was there like a protocol, or was it sometimes too much?
In my experience, it actually happened that I never turned it off, but I saw when other peoples were around with me in front of my computer, I just told them that it took a picture of them. But it never was the case that I had to delete the picture afterwards. But when it was too much for me because it was too intimate, then I just deleted it afterwards.
I only deleted, I think, one picture, but and I didn't tell anyone that the computer was making pictures of them. That's still something, if I ever exhibit it in like a big scale, then I guess have to tell all of them. But I just hold my hand in front of the camera if I didn't want to be seen.
And so how would you say your relationship to your computer changed through the years and through this project, basically? Is it a friend? Is it an enemy? Do you love him or her?
It depends. If I'm feeling good, if I think I look good, and then I really like my computer, and I also think it's great that it's taking a picture of me, because then I can go back and look at that outfit if I ever need inspiration. But if I'm not feeling good and I don't want to be seen, then I get even angrier, and it's interesting how it kind of accelerates my mood in both ways.
And what actually happened to me 2 days ago is that my computer shut down, and I now have another computer, and this one doesn't take pictures for me for 5 days now. And I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm a bit disappointed, and I miss this connection with my computer. So each time I'm like, oh, it doesn't take a picture of me. I got so used to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And will there be like a physical bit of this project? Are you intending to print or to bring it like in this analog world?
We could. I mean, we're still, since this is ongoing and we now have kind of this repertoire of all these pictures, we can think about many mediums of how to exhibit it in the physical world. I think it's always kind of, maybe in a book series, it could be interesting to skip through all these pictures. But I think the medium computer itself, that's digital, you can scroll through everything, and this is kind of, for all these thousands of pictures, it's kind of convenient.
Yes.
And I think what we've both started doing is now, instead of, I don't know, printing the pictures out, was to let it being interpreted by these algorithms. Yes. And I don't know, just like sorting it or starting structuring it, because at the moment it's just a big mess. It's just chronologically ordered, and but we are still thinking about how to develop this project further.
Mm. And are you working together on another project, a future other project at the moment? And what is it exactly?
Yes, we are. It's called Avatar Customization Destroyed Everything. And it's a video installation. It was supposed to be shown last weekend, I think so, in St. Gallen, but then it couldn't be exhibited because of coronavirus. And that's us talking about our digital representations in the form of avatars while being embodied in these different avatars.
Great. So, well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that everything will settle and that you will be able to present that work in the near future. Thanks again for joining, and I wish you and see you very soon. Thank you. So, well, this is the end of... Bye-bye! So that was the end of the Swiss Interactive session this afternoon. We're very happy to have presented you all those artists. You will be able to see all the videos on replay on our website, gif.ch. Come back later, because we'll be actually having a very exciting panel with the title, Does AI Have a Gender? Join us at 6:30. See you soon.